Alright, so in part one of Extract Brewing with Victor, we discussed the equipment we were going to use, the SS Brewing Technologies kettle. We water tested it, and we are at the point where we're adding water and starting our brew. Okay, we have our 3 gallons of water in here. Everything seems to be nice and leak-free. We are ready to fire up the propane. So we will open our door. Of course.
Perfect timing.
And we are going to position the kettle directly centered over the burner. And as everybody should be aware, you want to make sure when you turn things on your propane that you actually go in order of the tank first, and then the valve here. We've got a nice opening with the Blickman that allows you to go in through like that. So what you want to do is you want to have a flame going that has very little orange flame and mostly blue flame. You're also going to notice if you look directly through, it's almost like it's a fog. That is the most efficient kind of flame that you can get. You'll notice that these guys right here are going to actually start turning red and glowing. I've had this thing for about 4 years, done quite a few different brews on it. It's holding up quite well, and this seems to be the most efficient setting for propane use. While this is warming up, you can put a lid on it. That should help it come to temperature a little faster. Obviously, you don't want to do the lid on there at all once you start boiling because you don't want the surprises of a boil over. While that's heating up to, I think we're going about 160 degrees, we're going to prepare our sanitization solution for the day. And there's different kinds of sanitizers on the market. My favorite happens to be Star San. There's Iota 4. There's a couple others. And this you mix 1 ounce to a ratio of 5 gallons of water. So we're going to make 5 gallons by squeezing this to the 1 ounce mark, then pouring it in. Being careful we don't get extra feed in there. This stuff actually is no rinse, only if it's mixed properly. If you don't mix it properly, you actually, people think more is better. Not the case with sanitizers. You actually need to mix them according to directions. Now we're going to add 5 gallons of water. Okay, so we are at the 5 gallon mark with water. You can see there's quite a bit of foam. Once I made a new batch of Star San, what I like to do is actually empty out any old Star San I have in my spray bottle and get a very fresh batch. This bucket, once we've made it, can be sitting around for sanitizing all kinds of things like our spoon as we use it, our thermometer as we use it, and so forth. So I'm going to put it over here within easy access. And we're actually going to use 2 buckets down the road here. One of them is going to be holding our final product. One, of course, has the Star San in it. But I actually like to aerate the wort back and forth in 2 buckets, get a huge head of foam on there. So 2 buckets is always a good thing to have on brew day. Now, right now, because we're not boiling yet, sanitation is nowhere near as important. So I can lay the spoon on the counter. I can lay the thermometer on the counter because all that's going to be sanitized after the boil happens. Once we're done boiling, we start cooling, then absolutely everything is crucial for sanitization because just laying on the table like this, I could be picking up germs that could get into my beer. The first thing that we're going to do with the actual brew is we're going to steep some grain. And this grain, when we ship it, is already crushed for you. This particular one is not right now. So let's go to the grain room and actually crush this grain. Okay, so we're in the NorCal Brewing Solutions grain room. We've got 80 some odd different grains in here. And when we ship this is when we crush it. So your grain is very fresh. We make our kits once a week, usually on Mondays. And if you're ordering this in between, you're getting the grain as fresh as possible. All right. So the grain is crushed. We're now going to put it into a muslin steeping bag. And this is to make sure that it doesn't go all over the place in our brew kettle. This can be a little bit tricky. Sometimes it's nice to have somebody help you with this part. Alright, so because it's sometimes a little tough to get the muslin steeping bag filled with grain, I've enlisted the help of Evan, our very capable shipping and receiving manager, to help me out here. Alright, and then once it's in there, thank you so much, you may resume normal duties. Once that is in here, you want to twist tie this so that the grain doesn't come out. And this is now going to become basically a tea bag, which is allowing us to extract the colors of our beer. You want it kind of loose, like I have it here. If you have it too tight, then water's not going to permeate through the grains very easily. And we want to make sure that we soak this thing through and through. The reason I'm stirring this is I don't want to pick up any hot or cold spots where the thermometer is. I want to get a good variance of temperature throughout the kettle. And we're shooting for 160. We're just about there. And we're there. So let's go ahead and cut our flame. And we start doing our steeping bag. Another reason to have a false bottom in here is it kind of helps hold the bag in there. And as far as the bag, we want to do this according to these instructions. I think it's half an hour. Let's see. 20 minutes. And we're shooting for 154 degrees after the water cools down a little bit from the steeping grains we put in there. And it's definitely starting to look the color of a Hefeweizen already. Kind of an orangey gold color. And we started our clock. Okay, so it doesn't matter what kind of timer you use. I happen to just be using my cell phone with a countdown timer. When this is at the 0 mark, we're going to be able to remove our grains and then fire up the burner to start our boil. All right, let's see. We were shooting for about 154 to 156 degrees after adding the grains in here. And let's see where we're at. Well, looks like it's pretty darn close right there. 152, 153, 154. It's looking good. Now, at this point, what we can do is actually cover the lid on the kettle to maintain the heat, especially if you're doing this outside on a cold day. It's going to cool down quite a bit. So let's say it does cool down, we were shooting for 154. Let's say over a little bit of time, it's at 150, 148. Really no reason to panic because this is really not extracting sugars out of that steeping grain. What we're really doing here is extracting the color. We're going to get a little bit of sugar out of it, but it's not as important as it is when you're doing an all-grain batch where temperature control is everything. A little higher temperature is not going to matter with this either. You just want to make sure that you don't go above 170 degrees because then you start extracting some tannins out of the grain. Clean this up since we're on camera.